in the world today, people want to sit there and go, well, science and the Bible don't go together, and they go through all this thing. I just want to let y'all know. Now, a lot of people use different versions. This church, we use the King James. The King James Bible is one of two translations in English that have the word science in it, okay? The King James has the word science in it twice. The ASV has it in once. The ASV has it in a place up in Daniel, but the King James has it not only in Daniel, it also has it in Timothy. 1 Timothy 6:20 says, at the end of the verse, it says, science falsely so called. Now, when you take that into consideration, look, God knew when he was having scriptures written that there would be a science that's falsely so called. Science is the word that depicts from the word knowledge. We think that if it's science, then it's good knowledge. Well, there's a lot of fake science out there. Evolution is one of the biggest fakes. A mask keeping you from COVID is another fake. And lately we've had more fake science than you could ever come across. I do have different creation seminars that cover all the fakes, like the transitional form fakes and all the fake science that's been brought out. And so that one's a neat one, but listen, there's science that's falsely so called, and we have to be careful. Science and the Bible go together. Number one, this is an easy way to make it understandable, but if you go through and you sit there and you start thinking, okay, so science and the Bible, if you're a Christian, you can't be scientific. Number one, that's false. Okay? And this is how this is an easy debatable thing, is that, can I just ask you all, what's the oldest book that's ever been written? The Bible, okay? So the Bible is the oldest book ever written, and if the Bible has the word science in it, then science has to come from the Bible. So let me help you out. My first presentation covers a whole bunch of different science in the Bible, but today I'm going to cover the second presentation. The Bible is a science book, okay? In Jeremiah 33:22, it says, as the host of heavens cannot be numbered, neither the sands of the sea measured, so will I multiply the seed of David my servant and the Levites that minister unto me. The Bible claims that there are billions of stars, the host of heaven, in the biblical term for stars. When the Bible made this statement, no one knew the vast number of stars, whereas only about 1,100 were observed. Now we know that there are billions of stars and they cannot be numbered. Look, the Bible already stated that. And what we find out as we study the scriptures and we go through things, we'll find out that there's all these scientific things that come along. So watch this. It says, Job 38:35, canst thou send lightnings that they may go and say unto thee where we are? Now think about that. It's saying, can you send light or lightning, electricity, and say where you are? Now in the old days, some of you might have been alive at that time, but the only way you could communicate is you put a long string on two coffee cans, you held them tight, right? And then you could talk through it and hear. That's easy, right? Because we're talking something that's not connected. But now we can take out this cell phone, wherever it is, my cell phone in my pocket, and we talk. And how do we talk? We talk in radio waves, in sound waves. Well, there's the lightnings it's talking about. So here the Bible is stating that light can be sent and then manifested itself into speech. Scientists didn't discover this until 1864, when James Clerk Maxwell suggested that electricity and light waves were two forms of the same thing. So then we started going, so how did we do it so we could get it at first before we started actually just throwing them through cellular radio waves? We started out with a telephone, right? Actually, we started out with Morse code and the teletype. and we send it across an electrical cord. And so we ran cords across the United States. Somebody could tap on a little machine, and if you ever learn Morse code, that is one phenomenal skill to have. Though nowadays, most people can't even read it. But that's how you could communicate. Then they found out they could communicate by voice, and now we're communicating by voice with no wire connection. So this was already, is already in Job. Now think about Job. What do we know about Job? Anybody? If you study Bible and Bible books, you'll find out that Job technically is written before Genesis. Even though Genesis historically is an older book, Job is written before Genesis because Job was alive at the time of Abraham, and Genesis wasn't written until Moses started writing the Pentateuch. So if you think about that, this is the oldest book of the Bible written, and in it, he's already talked about communication through light waves and radio waves. We get to the next one, Job 38:19. Notice it's all in Job 38. Job is a major book, okay, especially when we're talking about science. So we get into 38, and it says, where is the way where the light dwelleth? So light dwells, okay? As for darkness, where is the place thereof? Now listen, what is darkness? Is it a thing? Darkness is an absence of light. Light is the thing. Darkness is the absence of that thing. So now you look at this, and it says modern man was only just discovered that light, electromagnetic radiation, has a way. It has a way it goes. It involving the motion traveling at 186,000 miles per second. A light year is the distance light travels in 1 year at the speed of 186,282 miles per second. So what is it saying is, look, there's a way, right? Light travels. That when it says way, we think of, the highway. There's a path. There's a road. Light travels in a certain direction, and it goes that way. Light's traveling. So that's scripture, and that's in the Bible. Now we'll go, and everybody says, oh, well, the word dinosaur is not in the Bible. I love when an idiot tells me that. I'm just telling you, okay? I don't mean to call them idiots, but look, if you're going to act like you have all knowledge, then you should have read the Bible.
Amen. That's right.
Okay? Because why wouldn't you read the first book that was ever written, and then you're going to come to me and want to debate me? Well, don't waste my time, because they say, oh, there's no dinosaurs in the Bible. Look, Job chapter 40, okay? Chapter 40, verses 15 through 18. Behold, now Behemoth, which is made with thee, he eateth grass as an ox, lo now. His strength is in his loins, and his force is in his navel of his belly. He moveth his tail like a cedar, and the sinews of his stones are wrapped together. His bones are a strong piece of brass. His bones are like bars of iron. Now listen, if you go into some of these geniuses that write Bible commentary, you'll find out that what they like to do is they like to say that this behemoth is going to be that hippopotamus or that elephant. Now, if you want to say the elephant's trunk is like a cedar, okay. I wish I had this picture. Actually, I do. I had a picture of this actual cedar tree. That is the largest cedar tree in the state of Idaho. And we put 21 people holding hands around that tree. And we're barely holding hands together. 21 people. Now that's a cedar. Okay? Does that tail look like a cedar? No, it looks like a paintbrush. How about that one? It does not work out, right? So we cannot put in our commentary that the behemoth is a hippopotamus or an elephant. Right? Because one, the hippopotamus has nothing that looks like a cedar, and the elephant, you're at the wrong end. And I'm going to tell you, you don't want to be at the wrong end of the elephant. Okay? So so when we look at this is talking about the long-necked dinosaur. Why? Look at that tail. Can I tell you, if he was around and we try to wrap our hands around his tail, he might not like it, and we might not be able to do it because he won't stay on, right? But if we could, that is a large tail. So that would be that picture of that cedar. So when you look at Scripture and you look at this, look, the behemoth is a dinosaur. Now, why didn't they call it a dinosaur when they translated the Bible? Anybody know? Go ahead, Professor.
I doubt that was a word back then.
There you go. Look, the word dinosaur didn't come out until the 1800s. We're using the King James translation, and we're translating from the Greek, and we're translating from Job, which was written when? Was Job written? When? It was the first book written, right? So we're talking back in Abraham's time. So we're talking thousands of years ago. So now what we have to get to is we have to understand that the reason the word dinosaur is not in the Scriptures is because it wasn't a word then. What does dinosaur mean? Terrible lizard. So let's be honest. What can we do to put on dinosaur? Can I tell you, if we use the definition of dinosaur being terrible lizard, right, by the wording, then wouldn't this alligator fit that? You go, well, he's not big enough. No, I said terrible lizard. And if he's biting on you, he's a terrible lizard. Okay? So that's something you have to get a hold of. Now, listen, there's a whole other thing about alligators and lizards. If you ever study out reptiles don't mature. They just keep growing. So when we hit adolescence, we get through adolescence and we don't grow anymore. You know, we actually start to decompose and get shorter and everything like that. I had a grandpa that was 6'4" at his height, and when he died, he was about 5'8". Why? Because we deteriorate. But a reptile doesn't. He just keeps growing year to year, and depending on how the environment is depending on how well he grows. And so you could actually look at an alligator in the perfect environment, eating the perfect food, can actually grow 1 foot. So if an alligator is born at 1 foot and grows at 1 foot a year, in 20 years he should be what? 20 feet, right? So if you take that in consideration, and then you look at, let's go to Adam. Adam lived for how long? 900 and what? So even if we just cut it off at 900, right? If Adam can live that long, so the average age of a human being now is, we say 70, right? Because that's what it says in Scripture is the normal age of a human being. We have 70 years. If that's 70 years and an alligator only lives for about 20 years now, then go to Adam's time, how long would the alligator live? At least 100 years, so how big would he be? 100 feet. In the perfect environment. So then you say, well, where did they get the dinosaur from? I'm not saying that they're not a different type of lizard. What I'm saying is that all reptiles grow and just keep growing. So what we would see now as, wow, you know, here's this little monitor lizard, he wouldn't be so little after 100 years. So just something to think about. All right, so then we go to John chapter 2, verse 6, and it's, I went down to the bottom of the mountains, and the earth with her bars was about me forever. This is Jonah, I'm sorry. Yet hast thou brought up my life from corruption, O Lord God. Now listen, he says, I went down to the bottoms of the mountains. Now where did Jonah go? He was in the water, right? I mean, they threw him in the water, and then it says he goes down into the bottom of the mountains. Only in recent years has man discovered that there are mountains on the ocean floor. So if you look at some of those maps that have the reliefs on it, I love those maps. They're the coolest maps, the plastic ones that are in classrooms. I could stand there all day and look at the terrain features. I know you Kansans don't care about terrain features because it's flat, but I like them. So anyway, I like studying, and you look at the ocean, and the ocean is not just flat. It's not a flat sea bottom. There's all this stuff. So you look at this, watch this. The depth of the Marianas Trench is 35,798 feet below sea level. Mount Everest is only 29,035 feet above sea level. So Marianas Trench is deeper than Mount Everest is high. That's an interesting thing, because then we have to go to the flood. Now what happened at the flood? All this water ends up covering the whole earth. Well, where did it go? This isn't a flat earth. We didn't just pour it out so that we had room. No, what happened is, that the oceans basically made deeper portions for that water to disappear to, and the mountains went up so the land goes up. So why do you have the Marianas Trench? So you could hold water. All right. Now, you go to Amos 9:6. It says, "It is he that buildeth his stores in the heavens, and hath found his troop in the earth. He that calleth for the waters of the sea, and poureth them out upon the face of the earth. The Lord is his name." God is talking about the hydraulical system. We all know, as we sit in school, we start learning that, hey, what we have is evaporation occurs from the bodies of water. It goes up into the clouds. The clouds run across and hit a mountain or something, and then it starts releasing the water. That's how we get rain. So we're talking about this water cycle that occurs. That's what he's talking about. Notice he says, look, he says, hath found his troop in the earth, and he calleth for the waters in the sea, and poureth them out upon the face of the earth. So how do we get rain? Look, it comes from the sea. And we know that because the hydraulic cycle. All right, so now we go to Psalms 19:4-6. It says, "Their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun, which is a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejecteth as strong man to run a race. His going forth is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit is unto the ends of it. And there is nothing hid from the heat thereof." So look, when we first look at this, what is he talking about? Look, he's talking about the sun. He says the sun, look, it says, "Them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun." So what has he done? He set up a place for the sun to be. Now the sun, we know, is moving. He's talking about the sun moving here, and it goes in its cycle. What does the earth do? It rotates around the sun, right? It rotates in its cycle. So then what does the sun do? It rotates in its cycle within the universe. So scientists recently discovered that the sun is moving through space at 600,000 miles per hour. So the Bible is true when it says the sun is moving. These are simple scientific things, but think about this. Why is it that I keep saying modern man found out? I wonder if you really talk to some of these people that wrote this stuff, like Job, when he wrote it, did he understand what he was writing? He may have. Why have we missed it over so many years? Maybe people aren't studying their Bible like they're supposed to be. I wonder what nuggets are in here that we haven't figured out our science. And so you start looking at this again, Job 38:22. "Hast thou entered into the treasures of the snow, or hast thou seen the treasures of the hell?" What's the difference in snow? You ever look at a snowflake? The reason it's a treasure is because each one is totally different. There's none that are the same. No one snowflake is the same. I put the question mark there with hell, but look at those hail. Now I'm going to tell you, the hell isn't as pretty as the snowflake, so I wouldn't call it a treasure. I'd call it a whole bunch of icy junk, especially since it damages our cars and everything else it does. But when you look at it, no hailstone is the same either. So that's all good science so far. Hebrews 1, 10 and 11, it says, "And thou, Lord, in the beginning hast laid the foundation of the earth, and the heavens are the work of thine hands. They shall perish, but thou remainest, and they all shall wax old, and as doth a garment." Now, look at this. The first law of thermodynamics, if you go through Genesis, when you get through chapter 1 and you get into chapter 2 starts with it, "and it was finished." What was he saying? The first law of thermodynamics. First law of thermodynamics says that all matter, so matter being the earth or something solid, and all energy is here. We cannot create or make any more. The only thing we can do is disperse it. Okay? So how do we make an explosion having more energy? Is we're taking energy from one place, changing where it is, and it goes into, but we never have more energies than we have. Now, that's the first law of thermodynamics. There's no more matter than there was when God created. Now, here's the problem. So we can't make any more, but what we find out here, if we look at this, "And thou hast laid the foundation of the earth and the heavens and the work of thine hands, and they shall perish," right? "As they all wax old, and as doth a garment." So what happens with a garment? Anybody wearing anything they were wearing for the last 20 years and they're still wearing it? You ever look at a homeless person? If they only got one pair of pants, watch them wear that pair of pants for 6 months without washing it or doing anything, and they're just wearing it. No matter what they do, it deteriorates. It's just going to dissolve on them. Well, the second law of thermodynamics goes from the first law. The first law says there's no more energy and there's no more matter. The second law says that all that deteriorates. Let me help you out with something. What does evolution say? That everything gets better, right? Anybody feeling better today? I mean, when you're young, you feel better until you're full grown, and then all of a sudden, look, it's a wicked cycle. You get to this point, and right here, can I just help you out? The theory cannot override, a scientific theory cannot override a scientific law. Right? We think about the word theory, we have to think about the word law. This is a scientific law, so evolution goes against science. So why is it that they spout, "Oh, well, I'm scientific, I believe in evolution"? No, you're an idiot, because you don't believe in science because you don't want to agree with scientific law. Is everybody catching that? It's easy to refute. Look, if we just took scientific laws, if I made an entire thing on just scientific laws, if I took the theory of evolution and a lot of this other stuff that they're throwing out, I can totally refute it just using their own laws themselves. It doesn't work. So can evolution work? No, it can't, because it cannot follow the second law of thermodynamics. Genesis 17:12. "And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generation. He that is born in the house or brought with money of any stranger, which is not of thy seed." So what does he say? Look, we're talking about circumcision. Why do they do it on the 8th day? Because the 8th day of a child's life, their prothrombin level and their vitamin K level actually come together and hit, and those are our clotting factor levels. And when they hit together, that is the one time that your body clots the best. And the prothrombin level is above 100% on that 8th day. So you sit there and you go, "Hey, if I cut him before that day, he's going to bleed more, and if I cut him after that day, he's going to bleed more." So why are we saying do it this day? Because that day it's not going to bleed. We're not going to have the bleeding that we'd have any other day. So when do we circumcise children? The 8th day. Why? Because the clotting factor is perfect. Why is it perfect? Because God made it that way. Well, how does the scripture know that? Look, are we not in Genesis, the first book? Now, granted, Job is older, but we're talking the second oldest book in the Bible. How long ago was that? A long time ago. So look at this. The earth is about 6,000 and some odd years old, okay? We go back. We go to Genesis. We look at Genesis and we go to the flood. The flood is just over, 1,400 years or something like that. It's right around that area. And so then after that, then you got another 2,000 years until you get to Jesus, and then you got 2,000 years to us. Okay? Because we're 2,000 years after Christ. If we look at that, you go back to that Genesis. Now when you go from that, so we're actually at around 4,000 years because Genesis is written after the flood. Now, when Moses is in there, it's probably another, maybe 1,000 years, probably 700 or something. You go to that point, we're still talking 3,000 years ago this was written. So, how would they know? They don't have modern science. So tell me how this all works out. Well, because you know what? They have a God. And God is true and right. So you look at Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman. Now he's talking to the devil, right? And between thy seed and her seed. And it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. So if you look at this, look, the seed of life comes from the woman. Sorry, guys. Look, in the old days, men thought that it was their seed that was so important. No, it's the woman's seed that's important. All right? This verse reveals that the female possesses the seed of life. This was not the common knowledge until a few centuries ago. It was widely believed that the male only possessed the seed of life and that the woman was nothing but a glorified incubator. Wonder if they read the scriptures if they'd have got that right. No, because they're male chauvinists anyway. But all right, so we go to Isaiah 40:12. Who hath measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, and meted out heaven with a span, and comprehended the dust of the earth in a measure, and weighed the mountains in the scales, and the hills in the balance? God tells us that he has measured the waters and set the proper amount on earth. Modern science has proven that the quantity of water on earth is just enough for our needs. If the sea became 3 meters deeper, the water would absorb all the carbon dioxide and nitrogen, and no creature could live any longer. Think about that. If there was more water on the earth, we couldn't live. You know, all these people, they want to sit there and they go, oh, well, you know, we have too many human beings because we've got to worry about the water. And no. There's enough water on the earth for everybody. There will always be enough water on the earth for everybody, no matter how many we have. That's all lies. Psalms 139:15. My substance was not hid from thee when I was made in secret, and curiously wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Now here David's talking about that God has made him in a secret place. Well, where's the secret place, ladies? Where's the secret place that people are made? It's in your wombs, right? And so there's the secret place. And what does it talk? It talks about wrought. Well, most of the time in Scripture, when you see the word wrought, you'll see that somebody's weaving something. So then we start having to look at DNA, and you look at DNA, and it's a weave of information. Now, let me help you with something. If we all came by happen chance, right? I didn't say happenstance. Happen chance, right? Anybody go to the casino and win all the time? No. If we just happen to, just happens, then we wouldn't have so much information. The Encyclopedia Britannica didn't just show up one day. It didn't just have things come from all over and form itself. It had to be information put into that book to make it to have the information it has. Look, the reason you're who you are and you're as smart as you are or have as many problems as you have is because of your DNA, and that DNA is made by God. Now, we look at this. We start having to look at things. Look, you look at a dog. Now, if you ever look at skulls of the dogs, dog skulls don't match. Some of us have Chihuahuas and some of us have Australian Shepherds. I happen to have both. Look, if you took them and you de-skinned them and de-fleshed them and we all had a good meal and then you sit there and you look at the skulls, you guys laugh, dog tastes good. So anyway, you look at the skulls, those skulls would look totally different, and as you're looking at them, you go, is that the same species? Is it in the same family? And so here I like to show you in this dog, the dog kind, right? Look, if we go back, the natural wolf, right? He hasn't been technically bred into anything. The natural wolf, you could say, would have a whole bunch of information. But as you go, you get to the coyote, he has a little less information, right? And then you get to the dingo, and he has a little bit less. And then you get to the collie, and he has a little bit less. Then you get to the chihuahua, you might as well kick it. It's not even a dog anymore. And you notice I didn't put a poodle in because he doesn't fit in the dog kind. That's like a mule. It shouldn't be there, all right? So when we look at it genetically, we do have changes. So we do have changes in a kind, right? Because this is the dog kind. We talk in kinds, all right? Because the Bible talks in kinds. Now scientists, they talk in species and families. If you talk in species and families, that's all right. But the original word was kind, okay? So that's the dog kind, the canine, all right, species. They're all in the same species. They can all procreate. They can all reproduce. But you know what? Is there changes in them? Yes. Is that evolution? No. It's just normal genetics. All right. So DNA, we look at DNA. DNA degrades with time, but in perfect conditions, it can last for several thousand years. It certainly would not last for millions of years or even hundreds of thousands of years. If any DNA is found in a specimen claimed to be millions of years old, such as dinosaur bone, this would actually indicate that such a species is not as old as we thought. Now listen, I put this in here because DNA has been found in a dinosaur. You go, what? Yes. There's a secular scientist that went up to Montana and up there in that same area is a creation center, and they own 35 acres of some of the greatest dinosaur land where you dig dinosaurs. It's pretty awesome. It's on the east side of Montana. But anyway, this lady goes up there, and I think she was the University of Wyoming. Was that where she was from? Was she from the University of Montana? Well, anyway, she goes up there. She pulls out this T-Rex bone, and while they're dealing with it, for some reason it broke or something. I can't remember the whole story. Anyway, it broke open, and there was still raw material in there. It wasn't dried out, so they could get the DNA from it. Well, if that's the case, number one, the full fossilization of that bone hadn't totally occurred, right? So the outside's fossilized, the inside is what? Still natural. Well, if there's DNA in it, then can I tell you that bone is not millions of years old? No. We got to rethink. At that point, if you're a true scientist, you don't make excuses why it happened. You start going, wait a minute, I got to rethink timelines. Now, I'm just going to help you all out. A lot of people talk about radiological dating. Does it work? Yes. But here's the problem. There is a number you have to put into it. Okay? So if I take Scripture and I take that equation and I plug in Scripture's date of when the earth was created, it all works out perfectly. If I go to a scientist and he decided that the date of the earth is this, and he puts that into the equation, he's not going to get the right date. So there's a geologist that answers in Genesis, and his name is Andrew Schnelling, and he went to the Grand Canyon, and he took a rock, and he split it into 3 parts, and he sent them off to the radiological dating places, giving them no information. So they don't know that it's the same rock in all 3 different radiological dating. So they date this rock, and the rock has I think it was a 1.5 million year error between the dating methods in that rock. So I don't know about you guys, but I don't want my car to be 1.5 million off on anything, right? Like your timing, because you're not going anywhere. So, but then they took those same rocks, used the same dating methods, but plugged in Genesis, and they get no error, and the date of the rock, and the date of the rock was formed when the flood was going on. So then is it correct? Yes, it's correct. Why? Because I can confirm it through my scriptures that say this is when the flood happened. How do we get sedimentary rock? A whole bunch of water and a whole bunch of dirt laid down in a short period of time. Okay? That's how we get sedimentary rock. All right. Now I want to show you the giraffe. The giraffe evolved. Now let me help you out with something. Everybody put your head between your legs. Don't do it. Put your head between your legs and then pop up real quick. Because let's be honest, look at the giraffe drinking. Now some of us, we're getting so old, I don't know how an old giraffe drinks, because I would hate to have to do that as an old giraffe and then have to get up real quick, because when the giraffe, let me help you out, when the giraffe goes to get water, so do the predators. So the giraffe, when he's drinking water, has to be able to bring that head up really quick and run or fight, which they're pretty violent if you ever talk to some Africans. Anyway, the jugular vein contains a series of one-way valves that prevent the backflow of blood when the giraffe's head is down to drink water. This prevents the giraffe from blacking out when he brings his head up quickly. So it works like a sponge. It holds the blood, and then once he gets up, then it starts releasing the blood, so you don't get that rush of blood to your head, which makes you pass out. All right? Can I tell you? He just evolved that way. If that was the case, the animal before the giraffe would have died because the predators would have ate him. Let's go over theory. Theory, a proposed explanation whose status is still conjectural and subject to experimentation, in contrast to well-established propositions that are regarded as reporting matters of actual fact. Why is it that we talk about the fact of evolution when it's the theory of evolution? Notice what I said on theory, it's not a fact. Okay? But we teach it as fact to our children. We actually teach no other theory to our children. Can I tell you, if I teach creation to my children, I'm teaching them fact because it is fact. But if I teach them evolution, then I have to teach it as a theory, and it's only a theory. It's not to be taken as a fact. Okay? So watch this. Religion, a set of beliefs concerning the cause, nature, and purpose of the universe, especially when considered as the creation of a superhuman agency or agencies, usually involve devotional and ritual observances and often containing a moral code governing the conduct of human affairs. Now, the old days, and this is what happened when creationists started fighting back. The old days, if you looked at a definition of evolution, it would have started out this way: a set of beliefs concerning the cause, nature, and purpose of the universe. All it would have done is left out God. But notice how it started. It would have started the same way, a set of beliefs. You go find an old dictionary from like the 1960s, you're going to find it, and it's going to say that. And so if you look at the theory of evolution, look, it's a set of beliefs. So what is evolution? It's a religion. That's what it is. It's a secular religion, and you got to be careful with it. It's a cult. All right. So the irony is devastating. The main purpose of Darwinism was to drive every last trace of an incredible God from biology. But the theory replaces God with an even more incredible deity, omnipotent chance. Let me ask you this: when you get to a slot machine, and I'm not telling you to go to a slot machine. If you've never been, don't go. It's just going to steal your money. But if you go to a slot machine and you pull on it, and it rings around, are you going to win money? Right. But let's say you win money the first time. Then you're going to be the normal idiot that puts more money in and you pull it again because you think you're going to win more money. But each time it gives you different amounts. It never hits the same every time, right? So if that's the case, and we start looking at the universe and it's made up of omnipotent chance, right? So we got this chance thing going on. So how many universes didn't work? Now, there's a whole bunch of universes that wouldn't have worked because how is it going to work? So every time I take that chance, now if you look at, so if we look at just the water level in the world, we're not going to look at how much nitrogen we have to carbon dioxide to oxygen, which makes us be able to live. But if we just look at that 3 meters of difference in water, if we just had a little bit more water, what would happen? We couldn't live. If gravity, here's an interesting thing. If gravity is, if for us to live under gravity, it is the top of a razor blade under a microscope. If gravity fluctuates either way, 0.0000001 one way or 0.00001 the other way, we can't live. How did that chance happen? It doesn't even make sense, okay? It is therefore a matter of faith on the part of the biologist that biogenesis did occur, and he can choose whatever method of biogenesis happens to suit him personally. The evidence of what did happen is not available. Evolution became, in a sense, a scientific religion. Almost all scientists have accepted it, and many are prepared to bend their observations to fit it. Look, this is a physicist, if you look at that, looking at evolution. We're talking about these scientists. Look, they know. There's a lot of scientists that know that what they're doing is wrong, but it fits, and so they don't care. The more one studies paleontology, the more certain one becomes that evolution is based on faith alone. Exactly the same sort of faith which is necessary to have when one encounters the great mysteries of religion. Can I tell you, you have to have more faith to believe in religion than you do to believe in God? I mean, more faith to believe in evolution than you do to believe in God. It takes way more faith. Why? Because evolution defies all scientific law. It doesn't even fit properly. And then we're sitting there, I have a book that's the oldest book in the world. So what does it mean? I have witnesses. Even if you discount, watch this, even if you discount the first 5 books of the Bible, the rest of the books are written by witnesses. Who witnessed evolution? Do you know there's people that walk out, there is no evolution, so he didn't witness it. So when you go out and you look at these, you can go to any college, and there's people like Ray Comfort. A lot of those guys will go to a college to debate somebody on evolution, and what they'll do is before they get there, they send out papers saying, hey, if you can prove one transitional form, we'll pay you $1 million. They've been to almost every university in the United States and in the world, and they've never had to pay $1 million. Why? Because there is no transitional forms. You go, well, what about Lucy? Have you ever really looked at Lucy? You know what's funny is they dug up finger bones of Lucy, and those finger bones were all curved. But when they make a statue of Lucy in a natural history museum, they give her straight fingers. Well, I don't know about you, but I can't straighten that pinky out. I was born that way. Those bones are curved, and they're going to stay that way. So if you put me in a natural history museum, don't straighten them. Leave them the way they are, because that's what it should be taught, right? Well, Lucy's got straight fingers. Why? Because they needed a transitional form. You study out the transitional form, most of them only had 1, 2, 3 bones. One had 1 tooth of a pig that still lives in Venezuela or Peru. Yes, buddy.
Who's Lucy?
Lucy is a monkey that they dug up, and they try to make her be something different than she was, and it's because they need lies to prove their evolution. All right, so right now, if y'all go ahead, take a break, go to the bathroom, we'll get Doc set up, and we'll be back in here in 5 minutes. Yeah. And let me figure out how to get this thing so we can do it this way again.
I might share, as you go out and you look at the displays out of the foyer there, the big one is the bone, and I will talk about it a little bit later, or people want me to. It's two-sided.